Morning, everybody. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks, Mr. Andre, morning. How's Gauteng? I'm assuming that you guys either have reliable dongles or you've escaped somewhere to the rest of the country or to an area that has power. What does the load shedding look like? Because I mean, for us here in Cape Town, for instance, where I am in Durbanville, we didn't have power between 6 and 8 this morning, and we won't have between 2 and 4 this afternoon, and we won't have between 10 and 12 tonight. On campus in Bellville, we will not have, I think, between 10 and 12 this morning, and then later this evening from 6 o'clock onwards. How's the rest? How's your areas? I mean, how are you managing? Hi, Lawando. How are you managing your load shedding?
I move between friends and family.
Oh, yeah, I tell you what.
So if I've got load shedding at home, at work, then I go home. If I got load shedding at home, I come to work.
Yeah, and hopefully in the process, Eskom doesn't decide to change it, and then you're at your friend's home or at your family's home, and they decide, oh no, we're going to another level. Oh shucks, now you're stuck.
Level,
it happens
level
too, right?
14.
Oh, just yeah. As I said, never a
Apparently,
surprise.
there's like some, I don't know, some substations that blew up, or I don't know, something. I mean, I don't know how these people got it so wrong. You know, like, I don't know.
And it comes as a surprise to them. I mean,
yeah.
Load shedding's been going on for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry that you're starting with a doom and gloom, but I mean, it's a reality as well. And I think it's a reality that close to national elections next year and a couple of days away from local elections this year, we are still not united and last time I checked, there were more people living in this country than there are in our government. But we're not uniting our forces and saying, you know what? It was the coal. Then it was somebody dropped a bolt in a machine at Kuburg. Then some station blew up. Then some cables were stolen. People, you're running out of excuses. What are you doing about it? Why aren't we pushing this legislation to go through that additional supplies of electricity can actually be added to the grid to relieve the pressure? So Eskom can switch off for a month and just do the renovations that they should have been doing for the last, and the maintenance they should have been doing for the last 20 years. But anyway, maybe the solution is too easy. Because I think, and it's not limited to our country, but I sometimes feel that leaders lack leadership skills, and they're just trying to avoid one crisis by creating another. But anyway, we deal with what we can. We've done wonderfully well. I commend you. If you pass this year successfully, you can actually, you're going to go down as pioneers in history one day, because you would be the first ones who have completed your qualification during COVID and load shedding and some other obviously related personal issues. People are not the sharpest tool in the shed yet. I'm much better. I tell you what, I've never ever in my life, and maybe this is a sign that sometimes you need to listen to your body. When we finished class yesterday, fortunately at 2 o'clock, load shedding kicked in. So I decided I'm going to get under the duvet, because I was feeling horrible. And I woke up at 4:30 this morning for the first time. And the reason why I woke up at 4:30, because I set my alarm for 4:30, not because I wanted to get up, because we're going to have load shedding. So I had to do a few things before without electricity. So I'm much better than I was yesterday, but I'm not 100% yet. So let's just battle through this again. To continue where we left off yesterday, Andre, I checked on class test 4. specifically questions 1 to 13 that you referred to.
Yes, sir.
They are predominantly from chapter 12, which is on legal issues in personal selling. I took them straight. To be honest with you, I don't have my textbook with me. I'm not at
Sure.
my textbook is at the office, and I'm actually at my home office. So I didn't check
Yep.
it from the actual page references, but I checked to see the database that I used. We get a database from the publishers of the book. In this case, it's Juta. They send us a database of MCQ questions that we can use. A database of about 50 questions, true or false, multiple choice per chapter. And I basically randomly just selected questions from there. So I didn't even check and see what pages they specifically refer to in the textbook.
Okay.
When I'm on the campus again, hopefully tomorrow, I'll be able to check and see, and I can maybe give you more specific feedback. But most of
it's okay. If it's from chapter 12,
yeah.
If it's from chapter 12, then I'll just make double sure. I'm actually making a mark in my book to
and Andre,
go through 12 more in depth.
Sure, and we'll deal with chapter 12 today in summary, but we also just have to and I think in hindsight, if we look at chapter 12, which is about the legal and ethical issues in selling, like anything legal, the deeper you go into the actual acts or the specific regulation, the more confused you almost become. So I have to admit that when I addressed those particular acts, like the Credit Act and the POPI Act and the Consumers Protection Act and all those, I basically focused on the level that is expected for you to know those particular legislations, and that is to know exactly what is in what it means. Why is that particular act has that particular act been legislated, and what is the implications for you from a sales point of view, from a salesperson, and also if it impacts on the customer. Okay. And that still remains the case. So it's never going to be that technical. And I had a look at the questions afterwards, and some of them can be very technical. And usually, with most multiple choice questions, they are confusing. And I think that there was definitely grounds to say that some of the questions could be challenging on the confusion side more than anything else. But we can unbundle that. I will hopefully. Oh, actually, I've got tower finally between 2 and 4 this afternoon. I'll be after 4 this afternoon. That I'll have a look at that in more detail. As to the chapters that we are currently busy reviewing as part of our revision for your exam. And by the way, side note to myself and obviously to you as well. The exam on the 19th, as I said, is a closed book, so it will be invigilated by teams like it has been in June. I'm most likely going to do that invigilation myself, so I'll probably create a link and I'll post a link onto the calendar like it was done for June. I've not done that yet. The intention is to upload the paper, which has been moderated in its original state, to upload that to Canvas tomorrow. So on Tuesday next week, people at our technical people can check and see if everything is fine, if the numbers correlate, if all the marks add up, if there's no strange things that happen, if you try to go from page 1 to page 2, you can't, kind of thing. That's what they do after we've uploaded it. And that's, as soon as that is done, I will forward the link to you. I'll upload the link and I'll post an announcement to say, here's the link. And in the announcement, I'll include the link as well again, just to make double sure that you get it. But that's the same procedure as it was for June, so it's nothing new to you. I'm pretty sure some of your other exams for November will also be closed book and invigilated in a similar manner. Right, just some logistics that I wanted to get out the way while I was thinking of it. Chapter 9, as I said, in the chapters we're busy with at the moment, basically focus on the different steps in the selling cycle. We started with prospecting yesterday as the first step, and as Teresa pointed out, not the most important one, but equally important to any of the other 9 steps in the selling cycle. But obviously important because it's the first step, because without any prospects, you will not have anybody to present to, you will not anybody that will object, you will not have anybody to close a sale to, and you will be without business. Right, so in chapter 9, we'll be looking at why people object, typical objections, how to handle objections, more importantly for you as a future salesperson. Let's delve right into it and look at the different reasons why people object. People object often. It's a combination of those, but often, and 90% of the time, it's because they want more information. Why do they want more information? They want more information because maybe you have not been clear in how you communicated with them. So maybe they didn't listen. Maybe there was distractions. Remember chapter 3, communication between you sending the message and the receiver receiving the message, the encoding and the decoding that happens. There's noises, there's other forms of distraction, and those all impact on the final decision that's taken by the prospect. And if they are not clear on what they've heard, it usually or the usual reaction is an objection, or maybe just a question. Remember, objection is usually in the form of a question. So can you just repeat that for me? I'm not 100% sure. That is an objection, but it's a question for more information, very specifically. And then I think probably one of the most important reasons why people object is because they fear to commit themselves to making a decision. They fear that they're going to make the wrong decision, especially if it's an important decision, especially if the amount that they will pay in this transaction is substantial. People are not going to fear a decision to buy a new brand of bread or a new brand of milk or chips or anything consumable that they basically use on a daily basis. Despite all the hype that usually go into most advertising campaigns, is there really a significant difference? Have you, can you honestly say that your dental hygiene is better because you're using a specific toothpaste? Let's be honest, people. The what should be in a toothpaste and what is in a toothpaste is what's necessary to fulfill that function. I honestly don't believe that by using a particular toothpaste is going to give me what they try and sell: whiter teeth, better smelling breath. It's a combination of things, people. But anyway, I think you know what I'm getting at. So when you have to make a decision to buy new toothpaste or change your brand of toothpaste, it's not going to be that significant. Your fear of making a mistake or losing money if you make the wrong decision is not as great as it is when you're buying a car or an expensive item like jewelry or a computer or a house, for instance. Okay. What common objections can we usually get? Obviously, the one that we have prepared you for, and then the one that we say you always have to assume that people are going to object about the price. Nobody is happy with the price that you advertise. I cannot. Some people don't object. They still pay the price that's advertised. But if anybody just hints to them that there's a possibility that they can pay less than the advertised price, they'll go for it. People will always object about the price because they always want the best price. I can get it cheaper elsewhere. You know what? As we have also identified in some of our earlier chapters, sometimes it's not worth picking a fight. Sometimes it's just, you know what, sir? Unfortunately, I can't give it to you at a better price. If you still don't, if they still don't want to buy, then you know what? Let them then go to the cheaper supplier. We've already budgeted for it. Again, if you've done, and this is usually the case in B2B business transactions or sales transactions in business markets, but something that we'll address in chapter 14 again tomorrow. It's usually a case of, or it shouldn't be a case if you have planned properly, if you have profiled your potential customer correctly, if you have gathered all the information that you need about your company or the company that you want to deal with, you would know who their board of directors are. You would know how long they've been in business. You would know what their buying history is. You would know what their financial year end is. So if you are going to fund them early on in the new financial year, there's possibly a chance that they have budgeted for the new year if they are a reliable business. If and I don't want to do business with a business who have not properly budgeted anyway, because they're going to have problems later on with paying you. When people plan their budgets for the next financial cycle, that's the time that you usually, especially when you're dealing with business clients, where you contact them and you should not get an objection that they have already closed their budget for the year, or that they can't squeeze it in because it's not an item that they have budgeted for. Financial year ends. Some businesses run the calendar year, 1st of January to 31st of December. Some businesses run 1st of March till 28th of Feb, which is usually also your financial year cycle for SARS, for tax purposes. And then also some businesses run 1st of July till 30th of June. Those are the three common and or most common financial cycles for you to remember if you prepare for a business customer. Right. Let's look at a few other objections. As I said, I'm not going to, and as part of our revision, the intention is not to spend too much time on every single item that you have on the screen, but just again to highlight the ones I think is we might have trouble with. For you to stop me and say, so what does that one mean again? I'm not 100% sure, and please do. But for me then to highlight the ones that I think is most common and based on personal experience and feedback that I've had from people in the sales industry. It could be, and again, we're talking here specifically about business-to-business transactions. You're not on a list of suppliers. That could be a very legitimate objection because sometimes businesses are quite interested in a new product, but there's a process to go through for the business to approve the suppliers. And once you've got to that list of approval, you know that you're in for some good business for quite some time. Get it cheap on the internet. Very legitimate objection that we have nowadays. I can't make that kind of decision right now. It's possibly because that person is not the person in a position of authority to make that decision. We do not have the money. At least they are open and honest with you. It might be a hidden objection that they say that they don't have the money, or it could legitimately do not confront somebody and say, "Ah, man, we always have money to buy something." I mean, that secret stash you have. No, don't ridicule the customer if they have objection. If they say they don't have the money, it might be the case, and especially in the times that we live in nowadays, it might be true that they actually do not have the money. Right, send me more information so I can evaluate it. It's an objection, but it's not a closed. It's not the door closed in your face permanently. It's a very diplomatic way of saying timing is not right now, but we are interested. Keep us on your database. Keep sending us new information. Nothing wrong with an objection like that, but it's one that is commonly used. Right. Now, there's a couple of points that we can address to ensure that objections is handled professionally. Let's look at each of those quickly, or let's read through them. Plan, yes, we said yesterday again, planning. And when you stop planning, plan again, and then plan when to stop, and then plan after that as well. Planning is crucial. In any business, planning is crucial. In any day lives. I know that I was better. I was going to feel better today than I was yesterday because I took care of myself. I took the medication that was necessary. But I also knew that I can't just forget about today. I have class with you guys at 9:35. I have to drop my son off at school. I have to plan and do a few things before power failure or load shedding starts at 6 o'clock. So we plan on a daily basis, people. And the better we are with our planning, the better and the better the more efficient we'll be. The less stressed we'll be. The less rushed we'll be. We complain about load shedding. You know what? We are one of the very few countries where there are load shedding, but that it is scheduled. We are fortunate. That's the silver lining to this very dark cloud of us not knowing when we're going to have electricity or not. We know when we're not going to have electricity. Eskom has got a schedule. They tell us the power's going to be off between 2 and 4 this afternoon. And you can actually plan around that. And that's the only silver lining to this dark cloud. But again, it comes down to planning. Unfortunately, the reason why we have load shedding is because they didn't plan. Okay, so everybody has to plan, and you can't just assume that things are going to happen in a particular way. Anticipate any potential objections. Anticipate and forestall. Prepare. It means anticipate what they can object against, and then prepare for that. Acknowledge the objection. Say it's fine. It's common. A lot of people have that concern. Handle the objection as they pop up, as they are made. Don't just continue talking and think they're going to forget about it. Ostrich, head in the sand, it's not going to work here. Be positive. Listen. If there's anything that you've learned from this particular module, it would be plan and listen. Then you'll get a long way. Understanding the objection. If you're not sure, repeat it and ask the customer. So say what you're actually saying is this and this and this is what you need more information on or that you're unsure about. Repeat it so you understand it, and then also clarify, because you might assume or you might encode their message in a different way, and then you start explaining, and then it's the wrong explanation because you misunderstood the objection. And then try and meet the objections. There's nothing wrong. As I said, if you don't take the objections personally, you'll be fine. Types of objections that we can get. We're not going to go through each of them individually. I think we have addressed them sufficiently in your assignment. Excuse me. in your assignment that you did, as well as the feedback that we had on the assignment, where we looked at each of these specific objections. My apology, I just took a big sip of water. Fluid is always good, especially if you have stomach flu. The hidden objection, the stalling objection, usually when they're looking for more information, the lack of interest, financial, we always get the financial objections. Product-related objection, then it's maybe because they don't have a specific need for that problem yet. They don't know they need that product because you've been focusing too much on the product features and not the benefits that they can get from that product. And then maybe bad experience, previous experience with the company. So they object. The objection is more sort of based on their previous experience and not you specifically or necessarily the product that you are trying to sell. What techniques can we use to deal with objections? We can have a direct denial. I don't know, where did you hear that? That's a lot of nonsense. I mean, you've got to check your sources. That's a very aggressive response to somebody objecting, maybe legitimately objecting. Listen carefully, ask them for more information. If you have prepared properly, it will be very possible that you can actually respond to it in a professional manner, because you have all the facts and said, so we've read that rumor before. That's not actually true. A most recent publication in such and such a survey that was done, and this journal or that magazine or in the Financial Times indicated exactly this, and that. When there's, do not directly deny. No, that's nonsense. Admit that that you've heard this objection before, and then correct them by giving them facts. Don't correct them in such a manner like a teacher is correcting a child. Said, no, you did this wrong. You've got to do it this way. You give them extra information. The final decision still remains theirs. And sometimes I said, just let it go. I mean, I said, sometimes you have to lose a battle to win the war. Sometimes offer them compensation in the sense of maybe a discount, or you know what, sir, if we I hear what you're saying at the moment, but actually, as a matter of fact, if you buy one now, I'm pretty sure I can get you another one, because we're running a nice special at the moment. So try and with obviously within boundaries, and that's what we also one of the questions that you had in your term test. Why is it important that you know the policies and the procedures of your business, of the company that you are working for? That you need to know your boundaries within which you can negotiate with the customer. Right. Let's advance and look at chapter 10. I'm not convinced that we'll be. Oh, you know what? We might even finish chapter 10 before this period is done. Let's just see how it goes. Right. What will be addressed in chapter 10? Buying signals, when to ask for the order, when is the best time to actually close, and we'll address it later on. But usually that is where, with experience, you pick up on a combination of verbal and non-verbal cues. But very often it's those verbal cues, non-verbal cues, where somebody is smiling or nodding, not saying anything, but you're 100% convinced now that they've made up their minds. Okay. Anyway, let's advance with chapter 10. Some buying signals. As I've just said, it's not easy to pick up on those buying signals, and you get better with experience. But if you can, and I think one lesson I learned myself, I actually was taught that by a friend of mine, very experienced in this industry, many years ago. I was still a rookie. I was still in my 20s, and I wasn't working in a sales position, but I was considering a change at that stage. It was in the UK, and I told him on a Friday I was going to Paris for the weekend just to check out a few things. It was the first weekend off in a long time that I had, and I was obviously working in the UK, but you know what, you also want to occasionally travel a bit, but this was just for a nice long weekend. And it happened that at this point, when I said to him I'm going to Paris for the weekend, he said to me, you know what I'm going to ask you to do is, what's your plans? Where are you going? Now, and I gave him a list of the normal tourist attractions. He says, you know what, if you really want to get to know the place, what I suggest you do, what I suggest you do, what I suggest you do is go to a coffee shop, because there's thousands of them in Paris. Don't sit inside, sit outside, get yourself a nice table, and just observe people, check people out, look at them. You will learn a great deal. And I tell you what, I learned more about people and people's behavior. And you can, later on, you can almost, it became a habit later on, because I spent quite a long time abroad. I got into the habit of looking around when I was running, when I was on the train and taking the train to work, when I was actually as a tourist, observe. And later on, even before they speak, you could actually ask, now I know that's an Australian, or that's a South African, or that's a Afghani. You pick up on the small little things, and even before somebody's opened their mouth and spoken in a foreign tongue, you have a sort of a idea of where they are from. Yes, there are certain physical indications. Some countries, people have darker complexions and very specific physical features, and that obviously will help as well. But I would suggest one of the lessons that you can teach yourself is to just next time, even if you sit in front of the television with your family, just take your eyes off the screen for 5 minutes and just observe the behavior of your mother watching the same show as you, your brother sitting watching the same football game as you. There's certain mannerisms and it will indicate. My one son is he's when he gets very excited, and when his team's playing and he's getting very excited, he starts rubbing his fingers in the palm of his hands. You could see that he's excited, and that's something I picked up very early on, even when he was a youngster, when he was playing cricket and the game was getting very excited. He was that's how he showed a non-verbal way in how he shows an excitement. So pick up on those sort of non-verbal cues specifically. It will help you a great deal for you to know when a customer or potential customer is ready to actually transact, make a final decision. Right, generally speaking, there's a couple of buying signals. They come usually in questions that's asked by the prospect. Like for instance, if they ask you, can you clarify the price calculation for me, please? Then you know. I mean, they just want to know how you get to that price. When can you deliver? That's when you run and you actually get the paperwork if you don't have it with you. That person is ready. He wants it now. Do you offer finance terms? Why? Or do you guys do installation? Do you assist with training of our staff? Those are all questions that is verbal indicators that the customer is ready to buy. Right. Buying signal, basically, by definition, is anything that the prospects say or do that indicates that they are ready to buy, if you're asked to provide a definition. When they are asking questions, when they are asking somebody else's opinion, for instance, I think I've used the example before. You're walking, the salesperson, you're talking to a salesperson at a dealership, you want to buy a new car, to go with Teresa's example of yesterday, and you've listened to what the salesperson said. I mean, you're walking around the vehicle, there's somebody else in the room as well, but there's nobody attending to them yet. Maybe ask them, sir, I mean, are you also looking for a vehicle? I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, ask other people's opinions. Ask people, and it doesn't have to be there. It could be that you ask somebody after you've been after you've had the presentation and you actually committed to coming back to the salesperson. Get information from reliable sources. Once they start relaxing and even maybe packing a friendly smile, for instance, those are all sort of good indications that they are ready to purchase. Instead of standing with arms crossed listening to you, they are now got the one hand in their pocket and the other one leaning against the vehicle, for instance. Maybe opening the door, getting inside the vehicle while you're still talking. Those are all indicators that they are ready to purchase. Right. When you have demonstrated something, if they are quite interested and they're picking up the item and they're turning it around and they, that's why a demo goes a long way to help somebody make a final decision, because they can actually see how it works. And that's why one of the best ways of actually selling a vehicle is to do a test drive. It doesn't work with all items that you're buying, but usually people, if they can sample something, if it's something that's edible, if they can taste it or they can drink it, it will help them to make a decision as to if it's the right product for them to purchase or not. Alternatively, there are some sorry, my apologies. There are some essential items or elements when it is that we have to remember when we're closing the sale. I'm just going to read through them, and that will be our final words for this particular session. Be sure that the proposal or the prospect understood you. In other words, usually when the closing techniques we use, and we'll deal with that in the next session, summarize and highlight all the aspects that you have mentioned. Present a complete story. Try and tailor make it for the prospect. Consider the customer's viewpoint. Don't see a no as a no. See it as a hesitant yes. They want more information. Learn to recognize the buying signals that we've just addressed. Attempt a trial close before closing. Ask for an order and keep quiet. Okay. Sometimes talking less is better. Initially, you have to talk a lot so you can give them the information. Closer to buying or closing the sale, you talk less and remain positive throughout. On the next page, I've also included the 11 keys that Makaya identified to be successful in closing. I might just highlight one or two in closing this particular chapter. Yeah, I'll do this and then we can do some closing techniques when we start the next session. Plan your sales call. Give a good performance. Point number 4. Give a great presentation. You have to do a good performance. It's Oscar performance every time. Overcome real objections by preparing for them. That's step 2, planning. Summarize the benefits. That's the third one from the bottom, as related to the buyer's specific needs. Ask for the order. All the way through, appear helpful, and that you're genuinely interested in wanting to help a customer solve the problem that they have. Okay, that's where we'll finish with this session. In the next session, we'll start. There's one short little section in chapter 10 that I want to finish, but you have other commitments and other classes as well. Thanks for the session. We can ask any questions, or if you have any questions, we'll do it in period 5, just after 11. All good at the moment? You're all fine?